Hi, I'm Adam Duffus, the Managing Director of VA for You, and this is Task Me Anything, a podcast dedicated to helping you with VAs in your business. We started this business a few years ago with the goal of reducing wage stress within your business, increasing employee happiness, and driving productivity through the roof. Without further ado, I hope you enjoy this week's episode. Today we're talking to a master craftsman with a big vision. Jim Hilston, Director of Hilston Wood Floors. Jim's family has been crafting, perfecting timber floors since 1977, and Hilston is now one of Brisbane's most respected names in custom flooring solutions, from luxury homes to commercial builds. But if there's one thing he knows, and it's not just flawless floors, he knows that scaling businesses take more than quality craftsmanship. We're diving deep into Jim's life, his business, and his delegation, and how virtual support has changed his business. Welcome, Jim.
Good morning, Adam. Thank you.
That was a nice intro.
It was a magnificent introduction, Adam. I'm somewhat sceptical now of your of the facts that you have at your disposal.
This is what I've researched on you. So Jim's our first. You're our first tradie client for our VA for You trades. Trying to bring virtual assistants to tradies rather than just the traditional areas. But before we start on launching all that, I want to do some get to know Jim questions. So, Jim, if a VA could handle one annoying task for you every day in your everyday life, what would it be?
I don't think I have any annoying things. I have recently become single. Man, and my life is really quite
less than annoying.
Simple, yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I live on my own and do the things that I like doing. So yeah, I mean, I think if anything, I could use a VA to give me golf lessons. So if you can find a VA,
I've been looking for that for myself.
A VA that can improve my golf, mate, that'd be great.
What is your go-to comfort food or snack?
Oh God, you're really going to all these terrible places because I actually really don't. I'm really looking after my diet these days.
It's
the same thing. You get to a certain age and you go, do you know what? I have to look after myself. So I'm ruining your
I know,
interview.
I know you don't drink.
Well, I do a bit. Food. I love a good steak, mate. That's it. I mean, I really do, and I buy good meat and love it. So I think just a great steak.
What was your first job ever?
First job, I worked with horses. So when I was a young man, I don't know why, but I really liked horses, and I was hitchhiking one day and out to a place where I was riding horses, and a fella stopped and gave me a ride and needed a polo groom that weekend, and that was my first job, and it led into all sorts of great places for me. So yeah, that was
what a wonderful start into polo career.
Yeah.
If you have 30 minutes to chill, what are you doing?
I am. Do you know what? I really like to switch off, so I will actually watch TV and sit down and absolutely do bugger all. I work very hard. I'm a busy guy, and I really do like to just let go and just watch something that's a bit rubbish on TV.
All right, let's make it easy on you. Quick fire, this or that. Sand and polish or a full install of timber?
Full install, mate.
The timber smell in a workshop or a freshly sealed floor?
I think we have to go with the wood smell in the workshop.
I love a wood. Yeah. One of the things I hate about my life is that I don't have that tinkering ability, and I don't bloody have all that hands-on craft. I'd love to have a shed with a tool.
Yeah. Tools are a great thing.
I have a phone. I ring someone to come and do the smallest of tasks.
Yeah.
Emails or phone calls?
Emails are easier.
Early starts or late nights?
Early start.
That's it. We've learned a little bit about the inner workings of you, Jim.
You've learned all the worst things.
So tell me, how did you get into the flooring industry?
So I was in the UK. I went over to the UK when I was 20-ish to play polo, and had always done that on the basis that I wouldn't be a professional forever. I wasn't. I was okay at it. I always had an understanding that I would go into a working life that was more normal, and so I took a job with a mate in an interiors company in the UK called Fired Earth, very, very good brand at the time, and took over a couple of ranges, and one of the ranges was timber floors. So coming back from the UK, and I had a choice of either timber floors or hand-woven rugs, and I chose timber floors, which is has been a really good business for us. That was in 2003 we came back, so.
Came back into Australia.
Yeah.
And polo. So you and I have had a few chats around your polo career, which then spawned into a commentating of polo career, which has some great stuff. So tell me about polo. Tell me where'd the love come from?
I just loved it. I don't know why. I just always liked horses and
traditionally a rich man's sport.
Yes, absolutely. Well,
not one that not from a hitchhiker.
You say that. No, in Australia it was farmers who played polo, and they were, to be fair, they were usually pretty wealthy. You need a lot of horses, and they do cost money. But it's an amazing sport, and I always was reasonably useful eye-hand coordination and loved my sports. And so the combination of horses and that enjoyment was polo. And I said to you, the first job I had was just by pure luck that the guy who picked me up and gave me a lift needed a polo groom. And got me started down that road. So no, it is just an extraordinary sport, and I'm passionate about it. And so in the UK, I was playing, and I was okay. I mean, I was not a terrible player, but I was never going to be good enough to put the kids through school. I think that was always the key to it. But that passion and I guess a reasonable vocabulary, and I ended up doing the commentating and commentated to a really high level in England, and just thoroughly enjoyed it. And that carried on. Once I stopped playing, I was lucky enough to be able to keep doing the commentating. So yeah, it was terrific. Really great part of my life.
Shook some hands with some royal family then?
I have almost all of them, to be fair.
Right, yes. All of them. Yeah, who's the nicest?
Oh, do you know that Princess Michael of Kent was always very charming? She was lovely. She used to compliment me, and it just seems so sincere. She's lovely. But, in all honesty, I reckon they're great. Most of them are, they're all human beings, and, I'm sure they have their issues behind closed doors and things, but, mate, I wouldn't take that job on. I just think it's an extraordinary
tough job.
To be looked at by everybody in the world the whole time must be.
I have a little bit of that with this podcast. Getting noticed in the street. It's becoming a bit much for me.
Well, I should think so.
Now, I said earlier you're pioneering our VA for you trades. VAs have been traditionally, and certainly within our business in the real estate industry. You've got Dilshan who started with you some months ago now. What is he doing for you in your business?
Kind of everything. I mean, it has been a huge change for us. Traditionally, because I'm quite a small business, that office role is really almost not a full day. And so traditionally we've had people who have taken it on as a sort of a 3/4 role. So often we've actually had ladies, mums who are, bright mums who have got kids and they've had flexible hours. But it's very difficult to find people when someone leaves to bring in somebody else. It's a very complex position because we have a lot of moving parts, a lot of different tasks that they have to undertake. And the last year I've actually had three that have started and said they wanted the job, and then they found it too difficult for them. And it is challenging. They need to be very organised, but also really terrific interpersonal skills. And part of the complexity of what we do, a lot of insurance repairs, the complexity of that is that things change. And so we can have a diary that's very well organised for the next month out with our trades, and then somebody moves something, and then you have to reschedule every single one of those positions. And a lot of people don't want to be rescheduled. The trades are all quite precious, and they're all individual. So the interpersonal skills are really important, and it's really quite trying, I think, for the people in the office. So they start and they think they like it, and then they find they don't, and then they go, and that leaves me then back in a position where I'm having to do that while I train somebody else.
Yes.
So
I've had quite lengthy chats with Dilshan. Service Mate is the platform you do for your scheduling and work orders, phone. You've called people, and he's picked up Service Mate so well, and since we started with you, we've picked up a number of trade businesses that all use Service Mate. It's very popular within Australia, and I find that these guys are Dilshan in particular is thriving on it. He loves when something does get moved, it's no problem for him. He's like,
he likes it.
Yeah, he's I'll figure it in, and he's ringing everyone, and he seems to get it done.
Yeah.
You made a comment to me the other day that you rang Dilshan and said, "Hi, Dilshan, it's Jim. I used to work for you." So is he really is taking that much off your plate?
Oh yeah, God, yes, yeah, an enormous amount. Because as I said, we're a smallish business, and when somebody leaves, we don't have a natural progression of staff through the business. We have we have trades. Some are employed, some subcontractors, but that position in the office is utterly crucial. And as I said, when someone leaves, they give you 2 weeks' notice. It takes months to train somebody, and so that falls back onto me. So Dilshan is fantastic. I mean, he's very bright, ambitious. He's a lovely guy. He's very kind, and I think this again is one of the keys to his success in what we do, and that is that it comes across so clearly that he really does care about these people. He doesn't want to upset them, but unfortunately things happen. And so when he does make these changes, I think that people don't find it, quite so unbearable. Yeah. He's a great guy. Yeah.
What advice would you have for, a young carpenter out there who's, on tools all day and then goes home and spends all night doing invoicing or chasing invoicing or, scheduling? What advice do you have for these people who are burning the candle at both ends?
Well, I think we all go through that, or not all of us. Some people start in business and understand the business aspect of it. I came into this as a tradesman and did exactly that. That's right. You work your 8 hours and then you go and do your quotes and then you go home and do invoicing and all that sort of stuff. The transition is extremely difficult to get away from tools. But I have looked at Dilshan and, going offshore with VA for you is now sort of seems to me about why didn't I do it sooner? And I think with what you guys are developing there, the idea that a trade such as the one you've described that is not big enough. You can't employ somebody for 8 hours a day or 4 hours a day all week. If you've got a flexible person who can take on some of those roles, then I would be jumping on it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said about, I've certainly been in previous business where you work all day and then you go home and you neglect your family and you work all night and then you go to work the next day and then suddenly you're 6-7 years in and you're divorced and your kids hate you and you're like, well, how did this happen?
Yeah.
Where did this all go wrong?
Yeah. So, what was the point of that?
I mean, and that's what we've developed with the tradie side of things. So if you need someone 4 hours a day, great. You don't need to have a full-time staff member, but we'll give you someone who's dedicated 4 hours a day. And I suppose where we're trying to really sink that in is that 4 hours isn't really a dedicated 4 hours. It can be split up over the 8 hours. So someone's there to answer your phone if you need it for 8 hours, or if a work order comes in and you need it actioned, someone will be doing that. But this VA is working on two businesses, 4 hours each for 8 hours a day, but really managing both roles. For a couple of $100 a week,
it's extraordinary. Yeah.
It's worth doing. It's been great chatting to you, Jim, and you've been really eye-opening for me to get into the VAs, into the trade. So I can't thank you enough for approaching us and working together over the last few months has been really great. I haven't enjoyed you beating me at golf, so I am looking forward to showing you that I actually can play. So
well, I look forward to that as well. Mate, honestly, it has been a great relationship, and I look forward to the development. The way we're rolling along with Dilshan, that he will move on into a position of management over a hierarchy of people doing this work, and that gives me such a surety. And again, I know you're wrapping this up, but if I've got just a few more seconds, I would just say that even with Dilshan being so good, to me, there is still, or was still, the risk, the knowledge that at some point in time that person will move on. And because we're not changing in structure, we can't have a hierarchy that brings people on. It's not something that we can physically do, or afford to do. But that's what you do. So, Dilshan and I spoke a few weeks ago and discussing his development and the fact that you would be bringing in people underneath him and structuring your business in a way that people would be coming through to learn these different roles. just makes my position so much more secure because I know that
someone's going to be there to pick it up.
Always, yeah.
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 Well, that's what we're trying to do. And so far it's working so far so good. So
fantastic.
Let's keep it going.
Yeah. No,
Thanks, Jim.
you.
I really, really appreciate it. Thanks for coming in today.
My pleasure. No problem, Adam. Good on you, mate.